guys, it's Jackie with Intoxicating Arts, and today we're going to be reviewing the Prima water-soluble oil pastels. And I'm starting off just showing my box here. I actually ended up keeping these from a recent supply order because this one happened to be a little dented, and I had a feeling that a few of the colors may be messed up, and turns out that 2 of them were, so I'm glad that I kept it for myself instead of shipping it. These come with 24 colors, and it has a really nice palette, as you can see here. You even get white, black, and quite a few blues and kind of red, purple colors to pick from. On the inside of the lid, it actually shows you all of the different names of the colors, so if you really wanted to reference them well, you could just say, well, I used the vermilion or the dark ochre. So that's kind of nice that they tell you exactly what the names are. I'm starting off in this calendar. It's actually one of those American Express calendars. It comes in this nice hardbound book, and I never use the calendar, so I'm using it as my art journal. And I'm going to gesso the left side, and I'm going to leave the right side just unprimed because I want to see how these are going to work on both surfaces. Now that the gesso side has been dried, I'm going to start playing with these. And first I just wanted to draw on my finger to see kind of exactly how soft these pastels are. And you can see there it did put color down on my finger, and I was able to transfer that color onto the paper. I'm lightly drawing hello, and then I will write some numbers here going from kind of a hard intensity to lighter. And the reason I'm doing that is because I want to see how it will react with the water and if it will completely be soluble even when I push a little bit harder. And it turns out that it did. You can very lightly see the H from the hello in the end. So here you can see there's just a very faint H right there, but it blends out really nicely. So here I'm a little bit off camera, but what I had done is just did some scribbles, like cloud-like scribbles, and then I put water on it and just blended it out, and then I'm going over that wet surface again and just putting some more scribbles in, and it will let you lay more color down on top of the wet surface. So that's good to know. It'll work on a still wet surface. So now I am just playing around here, seeing if I can get some speckles off of it, and I just have a little bit of water on my brush, and I'm getting some very small specks, and then I'll go and add some more water, and it will really give me these big speckles of color, and that works out really nicely. You can also directly get color off of the pastel this way if you want to be able to just paint with it. So I thought that was nice to know. I might do that on a future card. There you can see I'm just kind of painting with the color that I got off of the pastel. And I also wanted to see if I could blend out those cloud looking things, and they blended out pretty well being that they were not on a prime surface, but you can still see darker color where it originally was. Now I'm going to take a palette knife and just take a chunk off of the front of this red pastel and see if I can mix it together with some gel medium. And I will be using Prima's 3D gloss gel for this technique. And I can say that it's a little hard to get it to mix together. It's not as creamy as, say, like a gelato, so it takes a lot of smushing and working the product into the gel before you can get a nice even, sort of even paste. And I'll take that and put it through this star stencil right here, and it works very well. It does color the gel, and I can definitely see myself using this technique, but in a little bit here I'll show you a better way to get the color blended in. It's not so much of a pain as taking a chunk off of the pastel. So you'll see in a moment here this does come out very nicely. And I'll put some more stars on the bottom corner there just for fun. So now I'm going to take that same 3D gloss gel by Prima and just put a little kind of square of it in the bottom left-hand corner. I'm going to let that dry and go back over it later with the pastels to see if it's going to resist it or if the pastels will just dry on top of it. I'm also using the golden molding paste on the upper right-hand corner, and we'll get back to that later. For now, I want to see how these work with some red rubber stamps. And I'm just putting the color on the stamp directly, and then I'll mist it with some water. And I'm starting off by seeing how this works on the gessoed surface. Turns out that you need to be careful with how much water you put, because in this case, on my first image, there wasn't quite enough water, so not everything transferred, and so I wanted to try it on the non-gessoed surface, and it actually seems like it works better on just plain paper. So I got a pretty nice image there. It's kind of hard to tell. I'm going to do it one more time on the gessoed surface, and I'm going to do more water this time, just to see if I can get a better result. But I ended up putting way too much water on it, and it did not give me the result that I was looking for. It's kind of splotchy. You'll see here. Now I'm going to try it on a photopolymer stamp just to see how that works, and I decided that it would be a good idea to get out some watercolor cardstock. So I have some 140-pound watercolor cardstock, and I'm coloring this orchid stamp in red, and then I'm going over the stems with some green, and the vase is black. And you can see how beautiful that came out. I just did a few mists of water and it stamped on there great, and I love how this worked. I thought it would be fun to try it with the sentiment in the stamp set. This is a Stampendous stamp set, and the sentiment says, "Thinking of you." And I wanted to see if it would give me a clear enough impression to be able to actually read the sentiment. And you will see right here, I'm going to stamp it down. I just did a little mist of water like last time. And it ends up coming out really nice, and I'm super happy with how that worked. Now I'm just going to scribble some color over that surface that I put the 3D gloss gel on earlier, and just scribble it around with my finger and let it dry, and it does work. It will dry on the surface. It does not act as a resist. It also gives you a lot of playtime to move the color around on this really nice slick surface. So I actually ended up drying the molding paste with my heat tool because I wanted to get this kind of lunar effect going on. It's very bubbly, and normally you'd want to just let it dry on its own, or maybe use like a texture tool through it. But I thought it would be fun to see how these worked with enhancing the texture. So I'm just running the water-soluble oil pastel over it right now. And I will actually add some water to it and blend it out further with my finger. And doing this got it into all of the tiny little nooks and crannies of the tiniest bubbles that are on this nice texture here. And it comes out looking really, really cool, and it is great for enhancing the texture. So I'll show you a close-up of that in just a moment. I'm just going to rub my finger over it a little bit. And there's the close-up. So it came out really cool, like I said. The next technique is trying this on a red rubber stamp again, and this is another Tim Holtz stamp. And I actually used 3 different colors, just kind of scribbling wherever I felt that I wanted to put some color. Sprayed it with a little bit of water. I actually sprayed it with a little too much water, you'll see here in a second, but it still came out looking really cool. I like how the colors blend together, and you can get some fun effects using this technique, I think. I also think that it works way better on the watercolor paper rather than a gessoed surface, at least for this stamping. I wanted to see if I could kind of rub the color through a stencil. So here what I've done is I've actually taken the pastel and rubbed that over the stencil, and then I'm using my fingers to try to get into those little corners of the stars, and it's not really working that great. It doesn't want to move the way that I kind of was hoping it would, and so I figured maybe I could kind of water it down and it might move a little better. So I did put some water on my finger and go back in and try to move it around, but it still didn't work that great. So definitely just make a paste out of it if that's what you want to do. Now I have a wood grain stencil, and I've done the 3 colors on this, and I just want to give it another shot to see if I can get this to stamp good on the gessoed surface. So I made sure to spray just a little bit less water this time. I'm using a fine mist sprayer just to get a little bit of water evenly all over the stamp, and this time it worked much better. So you really need to kind of get down the technique of exactly how much water you should use with your stamp. This did not end up working out very well. I scribbled on an acrylic block, and I wanted to see if I could do like an ink smooshing technique, smushing, however you want to say that. So I just scribbled on here, and then I sprayed it with a little bit of water. I flip it over and I put it on the paper, and it just kind of looks horrible, but I wanted to show you that I tried it, so you'll see how that looks in the end. It's not very pretty. Might work better with some better color combo or maybe different paper. So here I have this little silicone mat, you can see, and I've put some white water-soluble oil pastel on it, and I scribbled it on there this time, and now I'm using Liquitex gloss gel to mix that around, and this is so much easier than cutting off a chunk. It's mixing in there beautifully, and once I had the white mixed in, I decided to bring some green in to get my own little custom color, and I'll end up with this really pretty light green. And I think this is definitely, besides the stamping on the watercolor paper, this is my second or equally favorite technique to do. So I'm just going to take that with a palette knife and put that through this little bubble type stencil that I have, and putting that right over that surface that I had previously put the gloss gel on and the purple color. And this comes out looking awesome. So much fun to do. And there's a close-up of what that looks like. It's not dried yet, but it looks really cool, and it definitely helped make it opaque because this was a clear color, and adding the white in there made it opaque so it would cover up that purple color underneath. I'm just kind of showing you everything that I've done here with all using only the Prima water-soluble oil pastels. I just tried to do as many techniques as I could kind of think of. And there is that beautiful watercolor piece. I did go back and just pull some color from the edges using a water brush, and that's what it ended up looking like right there. Here's a close-up of the texture. I'm going to put links for everything below if you're interested in purchasing anything, and I will also have a link to the blog post if you want to check out these pictures in more detail or for a longer time. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys later. Bye!